So welcome to the very first FOMO or Pass. I am George, and I'm joined by Brian Evans.
Yeah, happy to be here. As an angel investor in the space and investing into a lot of deals, I'm really excited to do this. This is a different kind of format, but it also represents a real format that we might actually really get being pitched projects. So it's an exciting way to do it.
So me and Brian, we will be inviting new projects onto this channel, and we want to hear their pitch. We want to hear what their project is about and whether or not we should FOMO or pass. And it will be a complete secret to the project because we will reveal it when this is revealed and you guys are watching this right now. So today we have Eric from Dragon's Crossing joining us. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to you. The rules are you have up to 5 minutes to pitch your project to us however you want, and I will start a timer, and then afterwards we will cut it off, and then me and Brian will start asking you some tough questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so floor is yours.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for having me. Dragon's Crossing is a Web3 dungeon crawler RPG. And we started developing this project 15 months ago, and we've done some things differently that we think are noteworthy and important with a general theme of kind of doing things differently in the Web3 space. So one thing we did differently is we raised funds privately 15 months ago, and I've been developing in stealth mode for the last 15 months with the intent to actually launch a real playable, complete project and game at day one of launch. So we came out of stealth mode about 8 weeks ago, where we launched our Discord, our website, our Twitter, our YouTube, etc. And we've only been doing that for about 8 weeks with the intent to mint in May and launch the game version 1.0 in May. Okay, so here's our website. We are, as I mentioned, a Web3 RPG. This is NFT art from the game. We will be minting in May. There will be 2 kinds of mints, a random mint and a boosted mint. The mint price is set to be at $300 USDC. Here's more information about our heroes. We have 3 classes and 2 genders for each class, part of the Genesis hero class. A big part of this Genesis hero, and let me just zoom out a little bit. A big part of the Genesis hero value is these are the only heroes that will ever be able to add new supply of heroes into the game. You need a hero to play the game. So if you don't mint one of these, you will not be able to control the supply of heroes going forward. So think about buying a traditional game in Web 2, you buy a copy of Elden Ring, and this is not only do you get to play the game with your copy of Elden Ring, but you get to choose who else gets to play the game going forward. The supply is in your hands. The way the supply is generated is as you play the game, you can find things that we call summoning shards, and you can use that to summon a second generation of heroes called Rift Heroes. And the only difference between Rift Heroes and Genesis Heroes is that Rift Heroes cannot add to the supply. So Rift Heroes can still quest and still participate in the game and still derive value from the game and still compete, but they cannot add to the supply. The only people adding to the supply are these Genesis Heroes. So that's super important. Given that I'm on limited time, I'm just going to hop over to the game and give you a live demo. I mentioned one of our key differentiating factors is we're a game at launch. Okay, so we're not making promises. We're saying come buy an NFT because you're going to play at launch. So this is the launch screen. And like I said, we're about 6 weeks from launch. This is the launch screen. I have a bunch of NFTs in my wallet. This is one of my NFTs. It is a ranger. His first name's Eric. He's got a level. This color dictates his rarity. If you flip the card, you can see information about him. You can see the skills he knows, which are like spells for this class. And if we click on him, and I'm actually going to change some settings here. Music, turn my music up, voice acting, voice volume, and sound effects. I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare with music so you can hear the sound. So let me just refresh my page here. All right, so you should be getting sound now. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
So one of the keys to our game is there's a lot of texture. So that means amazing art, voice acting, original score for every zone in the game, 170 items. It's a real game. We're modeling the analog is Web 2, but with some of the Web 3 capabilities, like this ability to control the hero supply. So if I select this hero, I start out in this place. We're going to go into the town real quick. And as you adventure in the town, or as you adventure in the game, you go to places and you can click on tiles. So really quick, there's some NPCs in the game. There's a blacksmith where we can spend quests to buy items. There's an herbalist where we can heal if we're wounded in combat. We have our inventory where we manage things, items we find and gear we find. Here's your gear slots. If either of you have ever played an RPG, this should feel very comfortable. We have the adventuring guild's kind of like the core of the game. And this is where you can find new spells and allocate them. So if you're like, you know what, I'm gonna play with one herbal knowledge and one bard projectile today. You manage your spell book here essentially. You can also summon additional heroes if you have a summoning shard. And once you're eligible to level up, I'll show you my character. I only have 1 of 20 XP. Once I hit 20, I can go to that place and level up. When this is the town, this is kind of your core. This is comfortable. As you adventure in the game, there's a game loop that you will go deeper into the game and discover additional zones. We are in the first zone here. If I click on here, a couple things might happen. I might get some lore, I might go on a side quest, or I might fight a monster. So let's see what happens.
You have 20 seconds.
Okay, so this is the core game loop.
I have to kill you? No.
So this is the core game loop. You're fighting monsters, you're going on side quests. If I attack here, we'll see. If I attack here, we can see some of the voice acting. We can see some of the combat. I know I'm out of time, so I will cut that off. But that's the core game loop. You're interacting with monsters. You're in the game playing, and that's our project.
Awesome. Yeah, thank
Ryan,
you for
wanna go
sharing.
first?
Yeah, sure. And look, I'm very conscious of you had 5 minutes. It's hard. It's always hard to do in 5 minutes, but I think my first thing, even beyond the game itself, is I always like to hear about the founders and who's involved in the project.
Yep. So I'm going to still share. I'm going to go to this team page. So one thing we're trying to do differently is provide transparency in a space that has historically lacked transparency. So we're trying to, we show our faces. I use my first name on streams where we interact with the community regularly. My screen name is Bloater Punch. My real name's Eric. I'm the president. I have 2 co-founders in Baby Punch and Sandwich Punch. We've been working on the project 15 months. We have our legal and correspondent, which is Granite. Legal is a huge consideration for us. Matez is over a lot of our tokenomic and modeling. The Brown Gent's an amazing marketing mind who's been super helpful. And these last 3, Deltoid Punch is our front-end dev, D Neuwirth is our back-end dev, and One Punch is our back-end dev. So this is really the core team right here.
And you did mention a funding amount previously from prior investors. Who were they? Prominent investors? How much did you raise?
So we raised $300,000 from a group of primarily friends, family, and some investors in the community. So it took us about 2 weeks to raise the $300,000.
Okay. I have a bunch of game questions, but George, maybe I'll pass it over to George.
I'm just curious. Why does everyone have a punch in their name?
It's a really good question. Sandwich Punch and Baby Punch grew up playing Warcraft 3. Their original screen name had a punch in it, and so that carried over for 2 decades. And then when I joined the party, I added Bloater Punch. So
okay, and One Punch, and
yep. And so he changed his name to One Punch to be part of the system.
So as for the team, tell me a little bit about them in terms of, were you guys business partners already, friends, colleagues? Like, how did you assemble this team?
Yeah, so, and I would say the team to me is probably the most important piece. Just after developing for 15 months, I feel like our team is one of our big competitive advantages. So I met Sandwich Punch and Baby Punch in college about 13 years ago. Sandwich Punch met Granite in grad school at law school. And then we met Matez and the Brown Gent through the crypto community. Baby Punch and Deltoid Punch are brothers. D Neuwirth I found in the Harmony developer chat, and One Punch we met in person. So varied, but we have quite a bit of relationship. And the other thing I want to call out is these are all working professionals. All of us have full-time jobs. And so we bring a lot of industry experience. So I work in a Fortune 50 tech company doing analytics. Sandwich Punch is a full-time lawyer. Granite is a full-time lawyer. Baby Punch is a full-time professional seller. Brown Jen is a professional marketer, etc. These guys all work, have full-time gigs as developers, and it's helped us a lot. We've been able to overcome some huge challenges en route.
On that side, if anyone on the team, worked in games before in a big way, or and I guess the question too is in general categorization, do you consider this more GameFi? Is there an earning capacity for this down the road, or do you consider it more pure game, build up your NFT, value stays in the NFT? You did reference value going to the NFTs.
Yeah, great. I'm glad you asked that. So one is the metaphor I like to use is, imagine you had like 10 really talented skateboarders and you held an exhibition and said, hey, each of you pay $100 into the pot, and whoever gets in first place will get $300, and whoever gets in second place will get $200. That's more or less the metaphor I'm using for our earning potential. So we will launch with a season play model. And what that means is there's an entry fee to get in the season. And based on how you play, how high your skill is, the decisions you make in the game, you will either win or lose. And in that regard, it's sustainable, because there's always going to be more in entry fees than there are in prizes. So again, so to your question about GameFi, again, it's game, and there is an earning aspect, but there is no single staking. There's no incentivized liquidity. There's no emission outside of playing the game.
More tournament-ish kind of competition.
Kind of. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it's interesting, because during your pitch, you kind of threw some shade at one other project that I think we all know who you're talking about. And yeah, that's kind of a different approach, because they are all about, DeFi, right? And they incorporated a game around that. Your game is definitely very different than that.
Well, I want to be really, really, really clear on something. I think you're referring to my 40,000% APR comment. Yes. And let me just take a step back. So the reason we got into this space and into this game and project particular was because we played 10 or 15 or 20 of these supposed game projects, and they were, like I just described, very low on substance, high on Ponzi-nomics, high on emissions that don't really last, high on these stupid, crazy high APRs. The project I think you're referring to is DeFi Kingdoms. I'm a huge DeFi Kingdoms fan. I still own Heroes, and so no, not intentionally throwing shade at DeFi Kingdoms at all. I'm a huge DeFi Kingdoms fan.
It sounded a lot like you were referring to DeFi Kingdoms. Can you bring up your NFT page again that you showed us, the Genesis ones?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, let me go back there.
So what you said makes sense. Basically, if you want the ability to be able to mint more heroes, you have to hold one of these Genesis heroes, correct?
That's correct.
So I saw on the top, there is 2,500 available for mint at launch. What about the 300? Where did that go?
They're only for marketing, activations, partnerships, bringing guilds on. We've decided that no one on the team will be playing the game. Originally, we had slated some for the team, but because of the competitive nature of our game, we don't want there to be any even optical corruption or mismanagement. So I'm not going to be competing. I will not have a Genesis hero. None of the team will. So those 300 are slated for marketing activations. In other words, getting them into the hands of the community. We won't be selling them.
Okay, but okay,
so
that's
think like prizes.
That's kind of interesting. I'm assuming you and others are gamers, and you would want to play your own game, right? Are you just saying that you're not minting it for yourselves right now, but there's a possibility that you may want to buy it in the open market later on, right?
I don't even want to go there, only because the season is competitive. It is a zero-sum game. And so if I have knowledge about my game, then I go play, I'm taking potential from someone who doesn't have the knowledge I have. So we play our game in a test environment. So I'm playing the game every day. I just won't be competing with other people who don't have the knowledge I have about the game.
And that's kind of because it's PvP in a sense, where if you know the mechanics because you're creating the mechanics and then you go and play, it's kind of unfair to the other players because you're just going to win because you know what to do, basically. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right. That's exactly right.
I mean, that makes sense. I could see if it was a different if there wasn't that mechanic and you were like, I'm not going to play the game, then it'd be like, well, why aren't you going to play your own game?
Right. Exactly.
So it does. I see
Yeah,
what
which
George's
is
point was, but your answer was good.
yeah, we want to move away from any bad optics. But again, to George's point, we should be playing the game, and we will. We just won't be engaging in competitive play.
Sure. And on the game side, with these mechanics, and for a very loose categorization, I'm not trying to label this like a card game type feel on here. Do you plan to is there a roadmap? Do you plan to do 3D or something at some point, or do some kind of moving gameplay where it's more than the characters there fighting, or is this or are you just doubling, going all in on this concept and that's the plan? No wrong answer, just curious.
Yeah. So the reason we chose this format is we wanted to go high on content, high on mechanics, high on polish like art and voice acting and texture. But we went with this format because building MMOs, building 3D environments is extremely expensive and a lot of people try and fail. And so we wanted to pick something, what can we do that we know we could do well and then over index in other areas? So to me, the most important thing is the game fun? Does the game have deep enough mechanics to provide a competitive, healthy environment? Does the game look good? Does the game feel good? And so I think with the music and the art and the voice acting and all the mechanics, we answer yes to those questions. And yeah, to be totally fair, if you want to have fun, you're going to play Elden Ring, you're going to play Counter-Strike, you're going to play League of Legends, you're going to play Dota, you're going to play these AAA titles who have billion-dollar budgets. This is do you want to participate in a Web3 fun environment and also have the potential to increase the value of your NFT, also have the potential to earn while you play if you're playing well, if you're demonstrating high skill. And those other games can't really offer that, especially with this idea of ownership, of owning the NFT as it increases in value.
What is the mechanic behind increasing the value of the NFT? Are the characters gonna upgrade in some way? And if so, is it stored, in an account when you unlock your account through connecting your wallet with an NFT? How does that work exactly with driving that value to the NFTs and storing it in somewhere?
So I'm really glad you asked that. And I want to be really clear about this. When we launch, there will be only seasonal play, which means your character wipes at the end of every season.
Okay.
So the heroes maintain value. Genesis heroes, or at least have value because they can produce additional heroes. And you still need a hero to play the game. So if you want to participate and earn, you have to have an NFT. That's one side of it. Part of our roadmap, and again, I want the focus I always pull the focus in all of our town halls is you should buy an NFT if you like what you see on day one. That's our whole brand. So we have a seasonal play. We're launching competitive play day one at launch. Now, do we have an idea to go to perpetual mode, adventuring mode, where you can level up over time and you never wipe? Yeah, that's certainly on the table. We might let the community weigh on if that's what they want. So yes, that will be part of it. But initially, I think I've outlined what I feel is the value.
And I think you may have mentioned this. They're on Ethereum.
We just announced our blockchain would be Arbitrum, which is a layer 2 Ethereum solution.
I think I heard you say it was going to cost $300. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct.
Is for a Genesis or just for a non-Genesis NFT?
So these Genesis heroes the 2,500 we will mint will be $300 per. And if I go back to the mint page, that's for a random mint. You can pay an additional boost and you can choose which class, which hero, and an increased rarity, which rarity has certain in-game implications. But I'd say the majority of people that will likely do a random mint, it would be $300. If we go back here, that's the 2,500. These heroes afterwards, we don't, there's no mint. Those are players find them and the market will determine what those are worth and players will be selling those to players.
So, okay. So I'm going to connect a few things together. And then also you said per season, you have to pay something to be able to participate. What is that amount?
So we're still determining that amount. It would likely be anywhere between, again, and we may do tiers. So like, we don't want to eliminate someone if they're like, I only have $10. So the tiers could go anywhere between 10 to 50 to maybe $70, something like that. But again, the higher you pay as an entry fee, the more eligible you are for higher prizes. So those would scale. Lower entry fee, lower prizes at the end potentially.
How long does a season last?
So a season is designed where you could meet the season objective because we're grading you as an example. Let's say I said, how many quests would it take you to beat the final boss? And you have 28 days to do that. And we anticipate most people on average being able to do it maybe 23 days approximately. but who makes the best decisions and gets there the quickest in the fewest quests, they are the winners. And the winners are on a scale, let's say the top 40% either break even all the way up to maybe 5 or 10x their entry fee. And then the bottom 40 scaled down to, I only got a quarter or a half or 3/4 of my entry fee back to zero, if that makes sense.
Okay. So, okay. The reason why I'm asking all this is because I feel like for a normal person that wants to jump in and play, right? Obviously, right off the bat, they're paying $300, and that's if one is available, right? And also $10 to $50 to play. So you're talking about at least $300 to $350 to just be able to play and compete. And I know the draw is, yes, if you're really good at it, you will be up on a leaderboard and you can make a lot of that back. But I would say most people, they would be casually playing and they probably won't be in the top 5 or 10, the places.
Top 40%. Top 40%.
So how do you address that though? Because I feel like that will turn a lot of people away because they simply don't want to pay to play.
Yep. So part of creating a sustainable model is that there have to be winners and losers. If our draw was, hey, everyone wins, we'll give everyone 100 DCX every time they play, that's obviously not sustainable. There's nothing to sustain that. So part of it is a winner loser dichotomy that I feel like is very lacking in this space. And again, when I play Elden Ring, I have no expectation of being able to have the opportunity to earn. When I play this game, I have an opportunity. Every time I log in, I have an opportunity. So that's part of it. The other side of it is, yes, I believe we are launching with a particular niche. And then, as we've talked about on this call, one potential avenue for next steps could be a perpetual mode where there's not a season competitive. Like you said, then we can address some of these casual players. So I agree, the whole world might not want to or be able to participate in this, but I think we have a compelling offering. And then as we move forward, we can create additional products and services for people, like you said, who fall outside of that core interest.
Well, and just to jump in on that note, you mentioned a niche. Who are you targeting marketing wise? That'll kind of answer a lot of this of, are you targeting seasoned crypto and NFT players that play these kind of games? Are you are you targeting the sort of general gamer? Who are you targeting?
Yeah, so our primary target is people in the space, gamers who love NFT games and have participated in these kinds of projects previously. That's kind of our core market. Beyond that market are gamers who we hope to convert to maybe taking a look at a Web3 project that has some potential. You take risk, you may earn, you may not. But our core is people already in the space who are playing NFT games today in some capacity.
What number of players would you consider a success? If how many, I know you've got 2,500 Genesis NFTs, but let's say they don't all play, what number of players would be the minimum to make this kind of work?
I would say I'm looking for season 1 participation to be at about 75%. That's my expectation. Obviously we're going to have some attrition, but at the same time, we hope to take certain actions as a company to ensure we can mitigate that attrition. I think we've talked about some things we're planning on doing, but I would say about 75% of the 2,500. But then keep in mind, as the Genesis Heroes produce Rift Heroes, and again, hopefully we're doing what we need from a marketing perspective to manage some of the supply coming into the market through these Rift Heroes with the demand from the market saying, hey, we want to play this game, but there's no heroes. So that number, the 2,500 is day one. We anticipate there being approximately 10,000 heroes in supply by month 12. So that means 7,500 rifts minted over 12 months. And we believe there will be a healthy tension between value returned to the Genesis Heroes through Rift Hero summoning and demand on the market side.
On that note, how many Rift Heroes, is it unlimited or is there a cap on how many can be summoned?
There's not a cap, there's a drop rate. So we're just looking at like a histogram of like potentials.
Okay. And one thing more on that note, on the mint side, specifically for the mint, how are you going to market the mint? Are you going to do the whitelist formats and cross promotions with other community? What's the kind of strategy there?
So we are going full blitz. We are doing all sorts of things. I've probably been on 15 podcasts in the last 3 weeks. We've been doing Twitter campaigns. We are doing a whitelist structure. So we have 600 whitelist spots up for grabs through contests, prizes, giveaways. And so we're doing all sorts of things. And
is that 1 mint per whitelist spot?
That's 1 mint per whitelist spot. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
That's
way
at
the
an ETH
whitelist
number, or is
works,
it tied to dollars? You said.
it's tied to it's tied to a stable
Okay.
coin. In this case, it would be
Okay.
ARC-USDC. So
Okay.
we're actually overscribing the whitelist. We are giving out 600 slots for 300 potentials, but there will be 2 phases. So if you wanted to get on that first phase but didn't because there was only 300 up for grabs, there's a second phase where it's like, hey, you have a whitelist, you get a guaranteed mint. You just don't get the discount, which is the real benefit of the whitelist. Those 300 first heroes are discounted at a 50% rate, which is pretty substantial. So if you have a whitelist, but you didn't get in on the first part, you at least get a guaranteed mint and then the public mint. So in theory, the public could see 600 heroes less or 1900 Genesis heroes up for grabs. 300 of the whitelists will get a guaranteed mint and 300 of the whitelists will get a discount.
Okay.
I don't think you
go ahead, George.
covered. Sorry, Brian. I don't think you covered. I'm looking on top token. So you guys also have your own token?
That's correct. We have a token because there is a lot of in-game activity. So think of it as an in-game currency. So to enter the season requires our token's called DCX, requires DCX. We just dropped our white paper, which we're calling our dragon paper. And in that paper, we have a breakdown of how tokens are allocated and how everything is being managed from that side. But the purpose of the token is there's in-game utility. So to enter a season, you need DCX. To summon Rift Heroes, you need DCX. To let's go to gameplay so I can show you this. To get these spells, these are hero spells, and to learn those spells, they're NFTs and they require DCX to identify. So there's DCX utility day one. That's essential to our gameplay economy and to building loyalty within the player base. So yes, there is a token, and all the tokenomics are spelled out. If we go to our token, I believe we have read dragon paper, and you can see here in the dragon paper. If I scroll down, you can see if I get there. Hold on. There we go. This is a breakdown of the token supply, where everything is going, why it's going there, etc.
Looking at the unlock schedule, unless I'm reading it wrong, the team, the backers, the advisors, the cliff period is 1 month. And then, so that means after 1 month, the tokens will unlock over 12 months or advisors 24 months. Am I reading that right?
That's right. That's correct.
So, I mean, I've looked at a lot of projects before, especially with the team. I mean, usually they're locked in for like 2 years or at least a year before it starts, you know, the cycle. Basically, the cliff is like 12 months, at least 24 months, but a lot of them are 12 months if it's shorter. Why did you guys set it at 1 month?
You know, George, that's a great question. We looked at a lot of comparable projects within the game ecosystem, right? A lot of our peers, and we felt like this was consummate with what we were seeing. But I'm all ears for hearing or getting feedback from the community. If this feels uneasy, then let's adjust it, right? Like this is something totally in the air or up for grabs.
Yeah, I think going back to what Brian is saying, it's you know, as a new stage project, especially one that's relatively unknown, the worst thing is when people discover that the team or insiders are dumping while everyone else is unaware of that, right? So I think that's why a lot of projects they now have gotten smart about it and say, okay, obviously we're not going to be doing that because we're locking ourselves for like 24 months or 36 months, whatever, right? So I think that's definitely something you guys
Definitely
should think
fair
about.
feedback and something we will discuss. That's totally fair.
Go ahead, George.
Brian, you know, Brian, I don't have a lot more questions. I know we're running long. Do you have any
Just a couple more quick
questions?
ones. Yeah. Do you have any partnerships or collaborations with anyone notable or anything else that would help the marketing? Basically, I'm trying to gather like, what's your marketing strategy going to be? How, you know, okay, you know, the game sounds cool. You know, I understand the concept. Like, how are you going to market it, basically?
So we've been aggressively marketing for the last, again, I think, I don't remember exactly, 6 to 8 weeks when we launched our public facing side. And we've hired or we brought on the Brown Gent, who's the director of marketing. We have community or partnership members who go out, they're on streams. I'm on podcasts. We're looking for all and any collaborations to get the word out. We're talking to every single ARB gaming project to say, hey, we're newcomers. Any way we could, you know, cross collab. We're essentially tracking down any potential marketing lead that would add additional exposure to our project. I think we have something unique here. I think we're doing things in a better way than I've seen as a consumer of the space. And so we're convinced if we can get eyeballs, if we can increase the number of impressions on the project, that we will have a successful
Okay.
and successful launch.
And last one, and I think this is a fun one, but what NFT communities are you personally a part of? And then what would you say the majority, if you had to pick one or two projects that represent a good amount of your Discord or community currently that they're a part of, what would you say?
So the number one's definitely DFK because
Okay.
unfortunately I've just participated in a lot of bad NFT projects, and DFK is the only one who's still around of my, let's say, of the last 12 months. Um, so yeah, it's really just DFK. Sandwich Punch, myself, and Baby Punch I got my crypto start in DFK, and like I said, I still have heroes. I'm still questing. Outside of that, there's just been a lot of bad projects, and that's just on me. I didn't pick them very well, and that's on part of the reason why we're doing this is because we felt like there was a genuine need for legitimate game projects.
In community wise, would you also say DFK, or is there any other
100%.
communities that are represented in
Yeah,
yours?
I would say 100% the largest community would be DFK, but we're doing everything we can to change that, right? Not that that's bad, but we want additional communities involved, and we're trying to do that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think you could definitely go outside of that GameFi realm because you might get some people from some other projects, like a Neo Tokyo, for instance, that could find some interest in this. So I would definitely consider exploring that.
We are exploring literally all cross collaborations right now, and we're 5 weeks from mint, so we're running very fast. We know we're on a short time frame, so we're doing everything we can to increase collaboration.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much. No, I appreciate you sharing all this.
Well,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Eric. And that is Dragon's Crossing. So I will put a link to this project in the description for those of you guys that are watching. Now, again, thanks for joining, Eric. But now is the point where you have to drop off, and me and Brian will be discussing among ourselves.
Yeah, thanks again. We appreciate you coming. It's thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing your response with the rest of the public.
I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted because I think, first of all, Eric is really well spoken, very prepared, right? And I think his pitch was very good, especially the use of visuals. I think everyone watching this right now can agree that you got a really good concept of what the game looks like, the feel. I think their art and the voices, they sound fantastic. It reminds me a lot of like Diablo because I used to play Diablo so much.
Yeah.
But a couple things concern me though. I know he like kind of backtracked, but he was throwing a big shade at DeFi Kingdoms because he was saying we're not a DeFi play. We don't offer 40,000 APY. I mean, and then he backtracked, and it's funny that when you ask him the question about what NFT would you resonate the most, and he said DFK.
He answered my questions well. What I noticed about him was, even though his initial pitch was okay, I didn't find the initial pitch extraordinary. Again, I think it was just he's probably not used to doing a 5-minute pitch. That's fine. But it is a good lesson to learn how to do that and be able to explain something very well in 5 minutes. But I liked him and I liked the project a lot more after he started answering my questions. He had a good answer to most of the questions. And it didn't seem like he was placating me per se. It seemed like he genuinely had thought of these things before. He had thought about the mint strategy. He had thought about the mechanics. I think it's obviously a limited market, and it's targeting more of the GameFi sort of user more than it's not going to attract casual users that aren't into NFTs and crypto. However, there could be a market for it. It did seem like it could work.
As for answering questions, I think the tokens, I mean, the whole thing about economy makes sense. I know it makes sense, but I still have hesitations because I feel like this to get the $300 and plus you're paying season pay, right? It's a big cost. A lot of people will not be paying $300 first to mint and then just to try out the game, which they may not like, right? So it's a hurdle. And I know he talked about maybe later on they'll have play that's without seasons and but so forth. But the way he has structured their economy, basically the Genesis holders will benefit the most because they will be able to find more heroes, the Rift heroes. Everyone else, right? Let's just say it's a really popular game. Everyone else is going to be paying a lot more down the road because only the Genesis holders will be able to mint those Rifts. And then who's to say how much they sell those Rifts for? They could be way higher than $300. They could be thousands of dollars if the game is very popular. So I think that will be prohibitive of, like, just general gamers coming in. There's that. And then the token unlocking. I felt like that was horrible. I mean, I'm sure you've seen hundreds of projects. I've seen 100 projects, right? Especially when it comes to advisors and teams, it's pretty standard, like lock it for 2 years or 3 years, right? Before you start, or at bare minimum, 1 year. You set everything at 1 month, I think that's a problem.
And I did like his response. He did say, "Oh, we're willing to look at that."
Would you FOMO into one of these NFT mints that's coming up?
I'd FOMO in. I'd buy one. And I think, I don't always, when I think about these things, I don't just think about myself, because I'll think of like my collective affinity, for example. Would people in there buy it? Yeah, I think they would. I think you'd get some percentage of people buying it. So that leans me towards buying myself. You?
I don't know. I'm not a big NFT guy. And I'm just thinking about this. I think they have potential. I think if everything aligns, right, and they do sell out, they have that runway with this extra cash, and they may hire another game person, like you said, and and we have seen other card games like Gods Unchained that that blew up, right?
Yeah,
so they can certainly do that. But for me, I'm looking for something like, I don't know, more sustainable. I think there's a lot of question marks on long term. Short term, I think they could do well, but long term, I don't know. I just don't see the grand vision yet for this. So I'm like a maybe, and because I'm a maybe, I'm gonna go say no for me. So I guess we're kind of split on this one. I'm not saying that it can't do well, but some of these things I'm thinking about longer term, the longer vision kind of things, I'm just not so sold yet with them. So
yeah, absolutely. No, I see the perspective as well. It's valid as well. So
thanks for watching the very first FOMO or Pass. Hopefully in the future, we will do a lot more of these, 1 per week, and we will invite on a lot more promising projects, and we'll go from there. And Brian will be joining me as well. So thanks for watching, guys.